It all starts with Kim Jinwoo showing up looking like he hasn't slept in a decade. He mentions he used to be just an average game director back in his old world. Until one day he ended up getting summoned to another world called Arsalan, where he lived a super long and exhausting life. But over time the MC managed to bounce back, becoming the master of the magic tower and an immortal archmage. On top of all that, Jinwoo also reached the ultimate level of a transcendent being. However, even with all his hard work, Arsalan is on the verge of ruin because of this thing called the erosion. So to save this place, he realizes he needs to bring in a ton of people from modern Earth, just like him. Then the Archmage notices he literally has no way to offer a fair reward for anyone coming to fight in a totally wrecked world. Since he needed a reason for them to risk it all, he uses his past life experience and cooks up the perfect plan. Heavy footsteps start echoing through the scene in a super epic way. A massive crowd of summoned humans charges through the new land, totally hyped up. A guy rocking a Viking style is blown away and comments that the view is insane. Soon he says the landscape makes him want to grab a drink, and a buddy next to him already offers some craft fruit wine. The catch is that it smells awful, like pure poison, and the warrior feels like that stuff is going to take him out. Further back, another player is super inspired by the gorgeous view, but his teammate tells him to stop goofing around. Jinwoo's plan was actually super simple to understand and pull off. He literally just summoned folks from Earth and made them all think Arsalan was just a hyper-realistic game. Showing people wearing VR headsets, he explains that the players are completely mind-blown by the graphics. Because of this, the humans fight the entities threatening the world, thinking it's just the final event of the campaign. On the front lines, a blonde swordsman tells everyone to gear up for combat. A massive dark sphere hovers in the sky as the main threat approaches the field. A giant, bizarre monster lets out a screeching roar to intimidate the noobs. The horde of corrupted creatures charges full speed at the warriors. The players watch the monsters closing in as the tension spikes on the battlefield. But instead of being scared, one of the guys acts totally confident about the sketchy situation. The squad starts celebrating the hunt, already joking about cooking goblin stew and barbecue after the fight. The blonde leader raises his glowing sword to guide the group's attack. Without wasting a second, the player army charges straight into a head-on clash with the shadow creatures. The front squad holds their ground, ready to tank the devastating impact of the horde. Super hyped, the swordsman charges forward, screaming at the top of his lungs for Arsalan. The system drops a quest notification to wipe out the erosion forces, setting the adventure vibe for the crew. Back on Earth, people keep logging into their pods to join this epic war. The battlefield turns into absolute chaos, with humans facing the horde without an ounce of fear. Meanwhile, a massive cross-shaped light descends, shining on the lone figure of the Archmage. Jinwoo watches the whole thing from afar with a super focused and thoughtful posture. He lets out a heavy sigh, showing just how exhausted he really is from carrying all that weight on his shoulders. Looking down from up there, he curses the awful corruption that basically took over everything. The Tower Master explains that the planet is slowly being devoured by this energy eating away at the land. He soon drops the bomb that it wouldn't be a stretch to say 90% of the territory is already totally gone. The only thing keeping the few surviving kingdoms standing is the magic barrier he built himself. The issue is that the mana stones powering the spell are running dry, giving the barrier a maximum of 3 years. Once the shield drops, the corruption is going to bounce back hard, and the monsters will wipe out the survivors in the blink of an eye. He finds it super ironic that he was summoned specifically to a world that's on a ticking clock. A voice calls him Glorious Lord, but Jinwoo asks them to drop the formalities in a world that's almost reaching its game over. His disciple, the High Elf Tiras, agrees, and he scolds her, saying he already warned her about the danger of wandering around them. Jinwoo complains that she immediately starts lecturing him and asks what the deal is, finding out he was summoned for an emergency. He knows the situation is rough but admits he doesn't have a fix, and the elf reminds him he's the only one immune to the danger. The MC explains that locals don't last long in the corrupted zones, since even the strongest souls get affected. As a summoned human from another dimension, he ended up being the one exception to this brutal rule. Unlike the locals, his soul doesn't take damage from the environment, and he can even convert the energy to buff himself. Still, he questions what he can do solo, stating he'd need a massive army to actually change anything. Tiras asks if she should let everyone know he'll be MIA again, and the master agrees without a second thought. The disciple tells him to take it easy and not go overboard just because he can respawn by swapping bodies whenever he wants. Joking around, she says if he leaves, she'll remodel his next body into a super good-looking guy or girl. Changing the subject, she tells her master to get some proper rest, and he just grumbles in agreement. All alone, Jinwoo thinks back to his human life, where he pulled crazy overtime while chugging coffee. Meanwhile, in Arsalan, he built the magic tower and spent his entire life grinding hard against the forces of erosion. Thinking deeply about his journey, the Archmage realizes he never actually took a real break in his life. Staring at the horizon, he goes over the fact that the barrier is going to drop soon and cause a total wipeout. With that in mind, he shows he's totally determined to take his future in a new direction. Making up his mind, he says he just wants to drop everything and finally take some time to chill. Suddenly, a super bright light starts glowing in his chest, leaving him confused about what's going on. Caught off guard, he feels the energy spiking fast around his body in a totally out of control way. A giant pillar of light explodes into the scene, tearing up the area with insane pressure. The Tower Master is completely shook, still trying to process what triggered this magic blast. Soon he feels a power of absolute authority, realizing his soul finally awakened as a transcendent. Blown away, he thinks it's crazy that he reached this tier only now by clearing his mind, after decades of trying and failing. Curious about his newly unlocked skills, he reaches out his hand to test what he can do. A massive dark vortex starts tearing through space right in front of him with intense gravity. The system reveals it's the Gate of Souls, a direct pathway to his soul's homeland. Checking out the rules, Jinwoo confirms he can cast magic through the gate and even transport physical matter over time. Without stalling, he leaves his physical body behind and dashes in as a glowing spirit to cross the path. The MC flies straight into the center of the portal in a blazing burst of spiritual energy. After finishing the dimensional trip, he opens his eyes to focus on what's on the other side. To his surprise, the portal opens right in the sky above a modern city on Earth, leaving him speechless. Just floating in his spirit form, he stays quiet, checking out the place he just landed. Looking at the familiar Seoul skyline, the Archmage is shocked, wondering if 100 years have already passed since he left. Noticing that people's phones on the street haven't changed that much, he tries to figure out if he time traveled or if dimensions just have different paces. Not wanting to waste time with these questions, Jinwoo decides to head straight to his old place. Arriving at the neighborhood where he used to live, the MC just hovers in the middle of the street staring at the buildings around him. He quickly realizes that right where his old house used to be, they built a totally new, unfamiliar building. Seeing this, he figures the existence of his past self is probably completely gone. Realizing Earth has a super low mana concentration, the spirit notes he needs to find a body fast before he fades away. With that ticking clock in his head, he starts flying super fast over the city's busy avenues. Halfway there, Jinwoo stops dead in his tracks when he feels something catching his attention. Staring at a giant mansion on top of a hill, he claims he's sensing some crazy strong energy coming from that place. Super curious about the whole setup, the Archmage decides to sneak into the house to investigate. As soon as he phases through the wall, the MC gets a massive jump scare from what he finds inside. He sees a young guy looking absolutely terrible, lying in a hospital bed set up right in his own room. Floating next to the bed, Jinwoo just watches the kid's critical state, trying to understand what's going on. Next to the bed, a doctor apologizes to a company CEO, letting him know they did everything they could, but there's no fixing it. Devastated by the news, the grandpa starts crying out loud, asking why his grandson Jinwoo is leaving him behind. The Archmage notices the room is packed with high-tech gear, getting curious about who this kid with such a strong aura could be. Right then, he recognizes the patient's identity and is totally blown away. That was Lee Jinwoo, the youngest grandson of the business world's biggest conglomerate, a genius who ended up bedridden way too early. Taking a closer look at the body, the MC realizes the guy is practically gone, and his soul isn't even in there anymore. Excusing himself for the intrusion, he explains that since they share the same name, that's the perfect body to possess and heal with his magic. Wasting no time, the Tower Master's spirit form dives right into the comatose kid's body. The second the fusion happens, intense magic energy starts pulsing, instantly restoring the whole rec system. The entire family freezes, watching that mysterious blue light shining from the hospital bed. Slowly, the guy's eyes open, showing the possession was a total success. While the relatives are completely shook, the MC sits up in bed, super relieved that everything worked out. Not believing his eyes, the grandpa rushes toward the bed, calling out for his grandson. The old man hugs the kid, crying tears of joy, while the rest of the family celebrates an actual miracle. The whole room is filled with tears of happiness and relief, seeing that the youngest of the family finally pulled through. Worried, the grandpa asks if he's in any pain, and the kid replies that the tight hugs are actually squeezing him too hard. After all the initial chaos, the guy finally gets to be alone in his giant room to rest in peace. He thinks his family is pretty loud, but gets that it's a normal reaction for people who just saw a relative bounce back from 0 HP. Sitting there with a stuffed animal, he admits that living this rich and comfy lifestyle wouldn't be half bad. But soon, reality hits hard when he remembers that the world of Arsalan is still marching straight toward a total wipeout. Then the Archmage tries to brainstorm a permanent way to save that place and smash the core that infinitely spawns monsters. Super focused, he wonders if using modern Earth weapons like tanks and armored vehicles would work against the creatures. But he quickly scraps the idea, realizing even bombs wouldn't do the trick if the hidden core isn't fully destroyed. Seeing he can't cook up a quick fix for such a complex issue, the guy sighs in exhaustion and decides to chill for a bit. To clear his head, he grabs a handheld gaming console that was just lying around nearby. The former game director quickly boots up the device and starts testing out what's installed to kill some time. The screen shows a classic adventure game, a title he used to rigorously approve back in his past life. Playing in the dark room, he comments that this old cliched story of gathering a party to save the world definitely has its charm. With that in mind, the MC thinks it would be awesome if millions of heroes just dropped into Arsalan to fix everything. Seeing a prompt in the game asking if he'd like to summon more warriors, the guy doesn't hesitate and hits confirm. At that exact moment, he stops playing and his eyes go wide as he has an absolutely insane epiphany. Sitting on the edge of the bed and dropping the console, the kid mutters to himself about summoning Earth's humans. The genius plan would be using the Gate of Souls to bring in thousands of people, connected through an interface they already know. Flashing a hyped smile, he decides to build a system where these folks will think they're just playing a brand new VR release. That way, humans from Earth would serve as the perfect, corruption-immune army to save Arsalan from certain doom. Super confident, the guy remembers he was a top-tier game dev in his past life and is now a supreme mage. To top it off, he now occupies the body of the richest heir in the country, having unlimited cash and resources to set up his company. Full of determination, Jinwoo decides to use these remaining 3 years to put the most ambitious project in history into action. Sometime later, the wealthy family gathers in a massive, fancy dining room for a chill meal. Totally doting on him, the grandpa tells his youngest grandson not to be shy and ask for whatever he wants to eat or do in life. Taking the perfect opening, the MC mentions he actually has a really important project he'd like to kick off soon. Freaking out, the patriarch drops his silverware on the table and begs the kid not to say he wants to go back to heavy studying. The old man reminds him he almost faded away because of study stress, but Jinwoo calms everyone down, shutting down that theory. With a chill smile on his face, the guy finally reveals to the family that his big dream is to develop a game. Hearing those unexpected words, the relatives are totally shook by the idea of the prodigy genius becoming a game dev. Sweating bullets, the grandpa tries to figure out if he's talking about those loud little electronic toys, leaving a tense vibe in the air. But against all odds, the old man throws up a giant thumbs up and starts crying tears of joy, supporting the idea 100%. The relatives quickly nod along, all hyped, mentioning how awesome it is to see the youngest finally taking an interest in stuff for his age. Super excited, the patriarch immediately turns to another family member, asking about that bankrupt gaming company their group owns. The MC is caught off guard when his grandpa hands him that entire company as a welcome home from the hospital gift. Staring at his imposing new office building, Jinwoo figures that taking over an almost ruined company is perfect for doing whatever he wants. Extremely satisfied with his new life, he thanks his family for the boost and promises he's gonna give this project his absolute best. Meanwhile, back in Arsalan, the Tower Master's old physical body stays frozen at the top of his magic domain. He notices his elf disciples safely moved the body to the throne, making sure everything was kept in mint condition. On Earth, the young guy explains he left an auto-run spell on his new human body so he can grind in both worlds. Switching his focus back to his archmage form, he stands up from the majestic throne, ready to start writing the game's epic lore. In the Magic Tower's library, the high elf in charge of Arsalan's lore is super in the zone with her work. She moves the quill across the paper super fast, logging every major event of that fantasy world. Without making a sound, the MC pops up right behind her asking about the text, which makes her jump 10 feet in the air from a jump scare. With her heart racing, Tia begs her master to never pop up like that to scare people again, and he just drops a quick "my bad." Getting back to work, the elf mentions that Arsalan's top author is still totally booked. She explains she's compiling her work to create a mental safe space for everyone during these rough times. Pulling up a chair to sit, Jinwoo hypes the girl up, saying she really has a heart of gold. He then asks her to imagine a stranger suddenly dropping into their world, which makes her ask if this is a setup for a romance novel. The Archmage explains that this person wouldn't have any obligation to protect the place and just wants to have fun, wondering how they'd get someone like that to fight for them. Analyzing the setup, the writer figures he wants to use a pleasure-seeking warrior, suggesting they'd first need to give him a sense of belonging. Super hyped about the concept, Tia claims the perfect fix for this would be romance followed by a massive tragedy. She pictures a scenario where this fun-thirsty outsider ends up finding his exact type and decides to settle down there. But right after, that romance would meet a super sad end right in front of his eyes. The disciple gets totally fascinated by her own plot, showing intense emotion as the inspiration takes over. Letting out a villain laugh, she concludes that would be the prime moment to comfort the outsider, point out the bad guy, and offer a hand. Adding to the mix, Jinwoo suggests it would also hit hard if someone the outsider respected sacrificed themselves to save him from danger. Happy with the result, the master praises how fast the best storyteller whipped up a strong motive based on loss and revenge. He comments that love and tragedy bring people together, turning payback into an unbeatable driving force. With that, the MC figures if humans get invested in the characters and the lore, they'll act on their own without needing orders. To cut the overly dramatic vibe, the guy clears his throat to grab the elf's attention, and she apologizes for getting way too carried away. Chilling the girl out, he promises it's no big deal, dropping the fact that millions of souls will read the story she's going to write. The Archmage even adds that the number could hit tens or hundreds of millions, leaving the writer completely paralyzed with shock. Soon the disciple goes into total ecstasy, imagining her work popping off, praising the master's genius while smelling a masterpiece in the making. Totally sold, she throws herself on the floor, even offering up her own freedom for the project, making Jinwoo question the girl's sanity. Getting back on track, he asks her to imagine an initial beta test with about 3,000 people spawning in the city with zero gear, a number that would scale up over time. Jotting everything down super fast, Tia thinks the idea belongs in a fantasy novel and asks if these beings will come from another civilization. Confirming the theory, the master explains the spawn point will be a village where they'll try to escape the corruption, asking her to write that tutorial. While the elf loses her mind with excitement picturing the tragedy, the MC watches the scene wondering if he should just leave her like that. Before dipping, he tells the writer to send the pitch to his game company as soon as she's done fitting the lore into the real world. Walking down the halls, Jinwoo admits he won't be able to convince his employees just by hyping up a good story. His master plan is to sell the idea of a fully immersive world using next-gen VR tech. However, since the Gate of Souls currently only lets one person pass at a time, he needs another starter strategy. Thinking on his feet, the guy decides the best move is to make a realistic gameplay trailer and starts thinking about gathering some actors. Using his comms magic, he hits up one of his subordinates, who answers the call instantly. The MC says he's heading to the castle to call in a major favor and tells the servant to gather the crew. An epic view of the main castle pops up under the clear sky of that magic world. In the blink of an eye, the Tower Master spawns at the spot through a glowing teleport portal. Walking through the Grand Hall, he walks up to the small group that was already waiting patiently for him. The Baron running the territory welcomes his glorious lord, looking absolutely hyped. Right next to him, an old priest also pays his respects, wishing celestial blessings upon the god. Jinwoo praises everyone's hard grind in their roles, but the servants claim it's nothing compared to his carry. The Knight Commander thumps her chest with pride, declaring she's ready to dedicate her entire life for Arsalan. Checking out the team's vibes, the Archmage thinks the knight looks presentable, but decides the two old dudes are way too ugly for lead roles. Showing some serious big brain energy, the leader figures out exactly how to fix this casting issue on the fly. Already chilling on his throne, he asks if the Baron usually dabbles in dark magic, and the old man super humbly confirms. Without over-explaining, the MC just tosses a dark cloak at the servant and tells him to put it on. As soon as he gears up, the old guy turns into a terrifying skeleton, begging for divine forgiveness while Jinwoo thinks the look is fire. Turning his attention to the commander, the master hands over a set of gear for her to check out. Holding the metal pieces, the warrior is super confused by the design, questioning how such weird armor is even useful. Hyped about the production, the lord tells the knight to equip the armor, but she reacts completely shocked by the insane request. Pushing the idea, the guy shoves the outfit onto the girl, who tries to back away, feeling super awkward about the whole thing. Going full serious and dramatic, he guilt-trips her, saying she needs to wear it for the sake of their world. After a bit, the heavy sound of metal boots starts echoing across the stone floor of the main hall. The warrior finally walks out rocking a very revealing fantasy outfit, leaving the master impressed with the final look. Jinwoo praises the fit, claiming it's perfect, while she asks, totally embarrassed, if that thing actually works as defense. Outraged, the commander asks what kind of nonsense rule is less clothes equals more defense, and the guy lies, saying that's the golden rule back in his homeland. Looking at his assembled cast, the MC thinks the overall aesthetic is solid, but feels like there's still a missing piece. He pictures a classic cutscene where the knight would need to protect an innocent VIP, immediately thinking about summoning a saintess. But remembering that the kingdom's saintess is a 200-year-old lady, he trashes the idea on the spot. Suddenly, a kid's voice echoes down the hall, daring someone to catch him. A girl with horns runs by, chasing a human kid playing tag, while a maid tries to calm down the chaos. Spotting the lord in the hall, the young demon hits the brakes hard, totally in shock for crashing the meet. Out of breath and super nervous, she bows apologizing for the mess, explaining the orphans sneaked into the castle without permission. Staring at the newcomer in total silence, the Archmage realizes he just found the missing piece. Skipping the small talk, the MC points straight at the horned girl and declares she's playing the role of the Saintess, leaving everyone stunned. The girl tries to explain she belongs to a race of seductive demons, but the guy thinks that's even better, totally ignoring her panic. Clapping his hands together super hyped, the master shows he's 100% satisfied with the weird cast he just put together. With everything set, he calls his brand new actors to finally start shooting the gameplay trailer. A bit later, dozens of mages bow respectfully as the magic tower leader arrives. A sorceress steps up, letting him know she gathered all 130 disciples just like he ordered. Looking up, the mage hesitates a bit when she notices something super weird happening nearby. Totally confused, she asks why the Lord's squad is wearing such bizarre outfits, and he calmly replies they're putting on a little play. Holding a glowing magic orb, Jinwoo states it's an act to save their world, even though he knows nobody would get his genius yet. Striking an epic pose on the throne, he drops the reveal to the crowd that he finally fully unlocked his powers. The leader explains he can now open gates to connect with other dimensions, catching claps and cheers from his followers. Projecting a hologram of a modern gamer, he announces he's bringing in otherworldly heroes who are completely immune to corruption. With that, the Archmage orders everyone to pause their current quests to focus purely on helping these new warriors grind. Handing the light orb to the sorceress, he reveals it holds the recording of the acting they did earlier. Flexing hard, the MC tells the mages to pack the video with CGI and special effects, adding mobs and details to make it an epic trailer. With the magic orb in hand, Jinwoo tells the mages to compress the file to fit inside a tiny mana stone, leaving everyone shook by the request. The crew goes into total panic, but the Tower Master dares them, asking if any of them would seriously admit they can't get the job done. Seeing the group's reaction, the MC figures they might look screwed right now, but they'll figure it out, since doing the impossible is basically a wizard's job. Staring intensely at his blue-robed subordinates, the Archmage mentions they really remind him of something famous. The image of those classic chubby plushies from his room on Earth pops perfectly into his head. Pointing his finger decisively, Jinwoo decrees that from now on they will be known as Magimons, leaving the squad completely confused. He quickly explains it's a creature that grants wishes and tells his helpers to grind hard, making the mages accept it through their tears. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, the big city traffic is buzzing as usual. A super slick dress shoe steps firmly onto the pavement, stepping out of a car. Rocking his Earth identity, Jinwoo fixes his tie full of confidence right in front of his new company building. The guy grips his shiny briefcase, relieved he got the demo done super fast thanks to the magic servants carrying hard. Just then, a guy in a suit walks up, bowing his head to double-check if this was really the new C. The big dude formally introduces himself as Secretary Kim Hansu, acting super hyped to meet him. During a firm handshake, the employee explains he was sent by the kid's grandpa and that it'll be an honor to serve him, getting a chill response back. Keeping it professional, Hansu says he's already gathered the whole squad in the conference room, and Jinwoo tells him to lead the way. In the meeting room, the head of development Han Yong-sun is waiting tensely, tapping his fingers on the table. The veteran reviews garbage reports showing the market tanked, and the company itself hit rock bottom with zero hope. Thinking about the new boss, he remembers the kid is a prodigy with 5 doctorates while barely out of his teens. Yong-sun tries to figure out why someone who just dodged a game over would take over a dead company, wondering if he plans to revive the biz. Out of nowhere, the assistant kicks the door open and loudly announces the CEO's entrance. Jinwoo walks into the room looking flawless, with his new employee right behind him. The young billionaire stares down the devs with a chill and insanely confident look. The few team members left are pretty startled by the duo's sudden drop-in. Gulping hard, the dev lead feels the pressure in the room and confirms that kid can only be the MC introduces himself straight up to the small group, saying they can skip the boring formalities. Already sitting at the head of the table, he crosses his fingers like a boss and tells them to kick off the meeting ASAP. Reading the files, Jinwoo mentions their last project got axed, and $1 million budget game flopped before it even launched. Sweating bullets from nerves, Yong-sun apologizes, taking all the blame, and admits everyone jumped ship to a rival studio. The veteran accepts they're all getting fired so the company can shut down, but gets a jump scare when the CEO says he actually likes the situation. Seeing the crew confused, the kid explains that since everything already went down the drain, starting from scratch is way easier, getting some nervous nods in return. Moving his piece on the board, Jinwoo announces he has something super important to show the squad. The secretary hands out thick folders to everyone stamped with the title Project Arsalan. The CEO explains it's a pitch for a VR game packed with all the lore and setting, asking for their honest takes. Reading the docs closely, one dev praises the world building, while a coworker thinks the medieval vibe feels surprisingly modern. However, Yong-sun warns that the project requires VR gear that isn't mainstream and the public backlash will be massive. Flashing a confident smirk, the guy guarantees the headsets will sell out so fast nobody will even be able to cop one. Slapping the table hard, he doubles down that he is dead serious about the sales hitting the roof. Standing up with major main character energy, the young leader declares he's going to turn the world upside down with this drop. Saying they need to see it to believe it, Jinwoo asks for a spacious room and the veteran suggests the mocap studio, so they all head there. In no time, the whole team is standing in the giant studio, still kind of confused by the order. Behind the scenes, the employees are gossiping about how weird the new boss is, and even suspecting some kind of crazy scam. The secretary signals that everyone is ready, and the MC just tells them to kill the lights. One of the workers follows orders and flips the switches in the massive room instantly. With the place pitch black, Jinwoo crouches on the floor and asks everyone to back up a bit. Touching the glowing cube he set on the ground, the X-Tower Master announces the showcase is starting. Right away, the artifact starts glowing with blazing blue energy lines. A giant pillar of light shoots up, lighting up the entire studio and leaving the crew speechless. Pure magic starts spreading across the floor, spawning realistic green grass in the blink of an eye. Super dizzy, the dev lead wonders what kind of madness this is while staring at the spell circle and the plants. Then a distant sound grabs the veteran's attention, making him turn his head in fear. The employees point at the ceiling, screaming in terror at the impossible sight that just spawned. A colossal red dragon flies over the group, letting out an ear-piercing roar that sends chills down their spines. The squad goes into full panic mode trying to run from the monster, but Yong-sun screams for everyone to chill since it's just a hologram. Walking casually through the scene, the CEO approaches his employee who is still stuttering from fear. Opening his arms to the majestic view, Jinwoo finally introduces his beloved world of Arsalan to his partners. He explains that this entire fantasy universe, detailed to perfection, will be the main stage for their game. Unable to believe his own eyes, the veteran asks if he rendered all of that, and the boss asks back if the graphics look convincing. Snapping his fingers to get their attention, the MC finds the team's shock hilarious and decides to skip to the story part. Instantly, the lit-up room goes dark again to give the crowd another jump scare. A spooky solar eclipse takes over the red sky, completely wrecking the room's chill vibe. Heavy clouds block the view under the creepy light of the massive celestial event. The ground violently cracks open as a terrifying skeletal hand bursts through the studio floor. Dressed as a dark lord, the old servant pops up with an evil laugh, declaring the power of darkness will corrupt the world. A massive army of fallen warriors marches relentlessly toward the group. Pointing his finger at the team, the villain orders his mobs to attack the mortals with zero mercy. The panic comes rushing back, and even the dev lead starts doubting if this is really just a visual trick. Keeping absolute cool in the chaos, the MC steps in front of the crowd and tells everyone to fall back. Slicing through the air at insane speed, the Allied forces commander jumps from a high spot, ready to brawl. With a devastating impact, the warrior hits the ground and shatters the enemy troops without breaking a sweat. A bright light cuts through the darkness as a soft voice tells them to relax because backup has arrived. Pillars of divine energy blast across the battlefield to wipe the threats from the area. Floating like a literal goddess, the young demon descends, lighting everything up and promising her glow will protect the squad. Completely sucked into the lore, the employees start screaming and cheering for the heroines who just saved them. Watching the group cry tears of hype, the CEO smiles, seeing the immersion level hit exactly what he needed. Striking a cold pose, Jinwoo silently concludes that everything went exactly according to his master plan. Watching it all from a distance, Jinwoo realizes the situation is going flawlessly just like he planned. Satisfied with the pacing, the CEO decides it's finally time to trigger the climax of the cutscene. In the middle of the set, the skeleton baron gets a kick out of seeing his stash of fresh test subjects get a massive upgrade. Soon, the villain orders his undead mobs to spawn and devour everyone with zero chill. Seeing that, the commander calls out to the young demon, who answers immediately, confirming she's ready to roll. The girl raises her hand, asking everyone to lend her their energy to form the Heart of Light. Totally immersed in the roleplay, the employees throw their hands up, agreeing to send all the buff the Saintess needs. Massive light energy starts gathering super fast, taking the shape of a giant sword in the air. Taking the opening, the commander grabs the glowing weapon and charges forward with a massive battle cry. Full of resolve, the warrior dedicates that heavy-hitting strike to the glory of Arsalan. Caught up in the hype, the entire studio team joins the scream, rooting for the magic world. With an epic jump, the woman dives toward the ground to drop the ultimate attack. Staring at the weapon's insane glow, the Dark Lord backs up, totally shook by that kind of DPS. A massive shockwave lights up the whole studio as the light energy slams into the ground at full force. Unable to block it, the villain gets sent flying by the absurd knockback of the glowing explosion. Collapsed on the floor at 1 HP, the skeleton crawls, begging the Lord of Erosion to save him. But a shadowy figure spawns out of nowhere and crushes the minion, stating he doesn't need weak trash in his army. With just one move, the evil entity deletes the Baron once and for all. The commander is stunned seeing the new boss just team kill his own ally so brutally. Locking onto the warrior, the hooded villain announces it's her turn to catch him. The creepy purple energy spreads across the zone, making the squad panic and try to sprint away. Totally losing it, the dev lead screams, thinking it's a squad wipe for all of them. But suddenly, the veteran stops screaming and gets super confused when he spots a key detail in the room. The studio lights snap back on, revealing the monsters just despawned, leaving the crew totally dizzy. At the back of the room, Jinwoo casually walks up asking what everyone thought of that crazy trip. Super confident, the CEO flexes that it wasn't too bad for a first concept trailer. The employees lose their minds trying to figure out the tech, while some beg to see the Saintess one more time. Trying to get his act together, the veteran apologizes for screaming, blaming it on being his first time in VR. Worried, the boss asks if dropping tech like this wouldn't leak classified secrets from the rich family. Countering that, the kid laughs, saying nobody outside would ever believe them, since even the team thought it was fake before seeing it. With everyone totally sold on the vision, the Archmage asks if the squad is down to jump on the project, and they all agree to ride till the end of the world. Super satisfied, he tells them to trash traditional dev methods and focus purely on the new engine he built using AI. The dev lead embraces the ambition, swearing they'll dominate not just the gaming market but global culture itself. Raising his fist in an epic pose, the young leader calls the team to go make history. Soon, posts start blowing up online claiming their studio is about to drop something revolutionary. News spreads saying the biggest release of the year is an actually perfect VR game. The hype is so real that the media is treating the CEO like a savior, hyping the drop as a can't-miss money glitch. On the flip side, the buzz creates doubt on the forums, where a lot of folks think the dead company is just trying to pull a rug pull. Chilling in his lab, Jinwoo reads the comments and doesn't even sweat it, already knowing nobody would believe it day one. Right then, the phone on his desk buzzes with a call from his beloved grandpa. Answering calmly, the MC listens to the old man ask if he saw the latest articles online. Furious at the haters, the patriarch threatens to send the legal team to nuke everything, but the kid says nah, claiming it's free clout. The old man grumbles but agrees, switching gears to ask how the studio is doing. Super relaxed, the young guy says dev is going flawlessly and they already finished the first prototype. Then he remembers a key feature and announces super hyped that the fishing minigame is finally done. Asked if he's still into fishing, the old-timer flexes, saying back in the day he used to pull massive fish out of the ocean. Taking the chance, the Archmage invites him to fish, but Grandpa passes, complaining his back is totally wrecked lately. Holding the VR headset, the kid says he's coming over to the mansion to show him something insane. Without wasting time, the CEO grabs his gear and heads straight to the family estate that same night. In the bedroom, the patriarch curiously inspects the high-tech headset his grandson brought just for this beta test. Guiding his grandpa to the bed, the kid tells him to get comfy before strapping the gear to his face. Wearing the tech, the man praises the build quality, amazed at how it blows the big tech companies out of the water. Checking if everything's good, Jinwoo asks if he's ready to launch and gets a big thumbs up. With a simple tap on the side of the headset, the patriarch boots up the simulation. A massive pillar of energy takes over his vision, as his consciousness is warped through dimensional space. After the intense loading screen, the old man opens his eyes, trying to adjust to the sudden brightness. Totally shook, he stares at his own hands, confused by the stunning nature spawning all around him. The old guy gets up from the ground, mesmerized by the vibrant forest graphics, feeling the cool breeze literally hit his body. From the outside, the magic lord walks up, welcoming his relative to the beautiful land of Arsalan. Spooked by the insane realism, the grandpa asks where the heck they are, and the kid replies they're inside his brand new game. The young guy spawns a mirror, showing that the old man's avatar was modeled after what he looked like at 40. Holding the mirror with shaky hands, the man is mind-blown, realizing his grandson wasn't capping about this surreal tech. Admiring his rejuvenated avatar, he almost cries tears of joy, feeling absolutely zero joint pain. Totally hyped, the old man demands to know when this genius kid found the time to code a project this massive. To keep his real backstory a secret, Jinwoo makes up an excuse that he designed the whole thing while stuck in his coma. Not giving him room to ask more risky questions, the MC grabs his relative's hand to keep the tour going. A glowing energy wraps around the duo super fast, promising that it's finally time to fish. They spawn on the edge of a crystal-clear lake, leaving the old man's jaw on the floor at the crazy render distance. Using his hacks without being noticed, the X-Tower master pulls a rustic fishing rod out of thin air and hands it over. Holding the item, the grandpa thinks it's wild how stuff just spawns like magic, and the kid promises the controls will get even smoother soon. Getting into his pro-fisher stance, the man tests the rod, noting it has the perfect weight for the grind. Super hyped about his young body, he casts the line full force into the middle of the blue lake. The bobber hits the water, rendering little ripples right where the fast cast landed. In the blink of an eye, a massive mob bites the bait hard, causing a huge water explosion in the zone. The patriarch pulls hard to hold the line, totally shocked by the insane stats this water beast has. But he refuses to catch an L and flexes every muscle in his arm to the max. Yanking the rod back with everything he's got, the old guy yells confidently that he's way higher level than the beast. With the absurd knockback of the pull, the giant fish goes flying through the air, completely stunned by being hooked. Unable to counter, the massive water creature crashes onto the rocks right next to them with a heavy thud. Jinwoo claps, hyping up the epic drop, while the grandpa stares at his own hands, out of breath, and trying to process what he just did. Feeling the buffs flowing through his young body, the patriarch stays totally quiet, just admiring his own HP regen. For a long time, he had just given up, and accepted that the brutal debuff of old age was taking him out. But now, he celebrates feeling this crazy energy again, admitting he totally forgot what it even felt like. Super pumped about the whole thing, the old man lets out a loud, happy laugh right next to his grandson. Watching the scene, the CEO reflects that these are the folks from Earth he's importing to carry that magic world. Deciding that keeping the family happy is a W, the guy says he's taking a screenshot of Grandpa with the boss drop and tells him to pose. The man thinks the photo mode is peak gaming and steps on the creature, flexing his high-energy muscles. Flexing his happiness, he keeps laughing out loud while maxing out every second of this new youth. Later on, the duo is chilling around a campfire at night, cooking the fish meat to get their hunger bars up. The old guy inhales the food, amazed that he can actually taste it, and even get the full belly buff inside a simulation. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps crushing the grass echoes through the dark forest, ruining the chill vibe. Jinwoo turns his head and spots two sketchy dudes pulling up, realizing he doesn't recognize those NPCs in his zone. Grandpa asks if another player logged in, but quickly figures the noobs must be just random mobs native to the map. Overhearing the weird chat, the locals think the duo is super sus and decide to drag them by force to their boss. Having zero patience for these low-level mobs, the X-Tower Master just commands them to freeze, paralyzing the two instantly. Flexing a terrifying red aura, the guy announces he's in the middle of an important meeting and tells them to despawn. Completely terrified of the magic lord, the men sprint away through the forest crying and begging for mercy. Thinking it was just a random bug, the patriarch praises the world design and asks how the overall dev is going. The young guy explains there's still a ton of grinding left, and the old man promises to drop unlimited funding from now on. Thanking him for the carry, the guy says he needs to take the headset back to push some final patches to the game. Back in the real world, the old man grabs his back complaining about the pain, whining that his low durability body is failing. Being super dramatic about being close to game over, he guilt trips his grandson into letting him keep the headset a bit longer. Sometime later, the project speedruns development thanks to the infinite money glitch from the massive conglomerate. The coding team adapts to the new magic engine and drops several quality-of-life updates to make things smoother for the players. Meanwhile, the art team wraps up the character models based on the dramatic lore written by the elf disciple. One of the devs sighs, totally swooning while checking out the 3D model of a gorgeous blonde prince on her monitor. Her coworker nods along super hyped, saying he's the top-tier character and she can't wait to see his animations in-game. The dev lead chimes in saying everyone will get to see these models in person once they log into the new world. Annoyed, the girls grumble that only the admins got beta access, making the veteran look pretty awkward. They accuse the boss of camping in the testing room and having fun solo, but he sweats and swears he's just grinding work. Suddenly, the elevator doors open on their floor, grabbing the attention of the entire office squad. Jinwoo walks into the department looking chill, saying good afternoon to the crew, and gets mad respect from everyone. Walking to the center of the room, the CEO announces out loud that the hardware officially passed all safety checks. With that, he confirms mass production is starting ASAP, making the whole squad go wild with hype. Taking the floor, the veteran reminds the team about the massive tech expo hosted by the parent company that's coming up. He drops the news that their small indie studio is going to showcase at the official event, pulling massive cheers from the devs. Getting pretty emotional, the man recalls all the hate comments and ratioing the studio and the new boss took from the media lately. Throwing his hands up, he declares all that hate is gonna turn into standing ovations when the project completely breaks the global market. To level up the party, the young boss promises to hook everyone up with top-tier gear to test the game, causing a massive hype scream. The team goes into a total frenzy, chanting the CEO's name like he's a literal gaming industry idol. Caught off guard by the insane glazing, Jinwoo feels his phone buzzing nonstop in his pocket. Checking the screen, he sees his grandpa spamming dozens of panicked messages, demanding the servers go live. The guy goes into full panic mode reading the last ping, saying the old man is already driving to the office to demand access. Sprinting down the hall, the boss yells that he has an emergency and tells everyone to log off early. A little while later, the big day of the Tech Expo finally drops, pulling a massive crowd to the convention center. The halls are packed with tech geeks and journalists, dying to see the latest drops from the biggest companies on the planet. Walking around, a famous tech reviewer talks trash about the bankrupt game studio randomly showing up. The influencer hot takes that promising perfect VR and dropping a buggy mess would be literal career suicide. Reviewing the hardware fails in the market, he thinks there's zero chance this crew outcoded the big American tech giants. Sitting in the dark crowd, the reviewer sets up his camera, promising to drop a brutal reaction video if the showcase flops. On the main stage, the host announces a super special guest to reveal the brand's newest venture. Walking out with insane drip and confidence under the spotlights, the young CEO steps up to handle the night's big reveal. The crowd starts whispering, shocked to see that the rich family's famous prodigy actually made a comeback. Grabbing the mic, the guy jokes that he loved the internet memes about him, inventing gravity engines and superconductors. Getting serious, he promises today's drop might not be alien tech, but it's going to completely shatter all expectations. Snapping his fingers for drama, Jinwoo triggers the venue systems, announcing the real showcase is starting now. Instantly, a massive wave of virtual water floods the audience, jump-scaring everyone with how insane the graphics look. The influencer loses his mind seeing himself surrounded by a perfect ocean, screaming to ask if it's some crazy movie CGI. Walking casually through the illusions, the speaker drops a poetic monologue about how humanity conquered the seas. The map changes fast, showing endless deserts and snowy mountains while he talks about the brutal grind to conquer the land. Surrounded by a wild blizzard, the young guy hypes up the insane courage it took humans to dominate the highest peaks on the server. Mind blown by the tech, the reviewer touches the snowflakes, freaking out that he can actually feel the texture and the cold buff on his body. Keeping the show rolling, the speaker talks about dominating the skies and the crazy ambition that sent rockets to the moon and rovers to Mars. Floating in a starry galaxy, he thinks deeply about the urge to conquer space, bummed that the physical body is still a massive bottleneck. Dropping a sad vibe, the guy asks if they all spawned in the wrong era to actually live out an epic adventure. But then he stands tall, snaps his fingers again, and claims he refused to quit and literally built a whole new world. A massive blast of purple lightning crashes through the ceiling straight onto the stage, leaving the crowd completely shook. The whole zone transforms instantly, dropping a dark sky dominated by a giant, creepy red moon. The entire audience gets teleported into a ruined, spooky wasteland, looking around confused about how they fast-traveled there. Gripping his camera, the reviewer shakes with fear asking where they are, while the game's mascots just float around chilling. The crowd goes into full panic mode over the horror game vibes, screaming and trying to figure out what the heck is happening. Milking the chaos, Jinwoo opens his arms on stage and officially drops his master creation to the public. The big screen plays an epic montage promising full immersion in a world where everyone can grind for hope. Holding up the VR headset, he announces early access drops in 2 weeks, with only 2,500 units available. The display shows the spec sheet, revealing that the exclusive pre-order just went live on the online store. The internet immediately breaks with the news, with people questioning if a game with graphics this cracked can even be real. A lot of the community is super sus, thinking the company is running a massive scam just to pump their stock prices. Even with all the hate and threats of lawsuits, the hardware sells out on the site in record time. One guy posts that he secured his copy and plans to drop a deep dive review the second the game goes live. Meanwhile, his buddy gets thoughtful, wondering how massive the meta shift will be if this crazy tech is actually legit. Super hyped, the reviewer decides he's gonna ditch his current tech niche to become a full-time content creator for this new world. 2 weeks later, the server loads into a beautiful, chill village right in the heart of Arsalan. Watching from above, the Tower Master smirks, knowing his master plan is finally hitting play. One of his admins pings him that the long queue is over, and Earth's heroes are finally spawning into the magic world. In the starter zone, a buff NPC opens his arms, warmly welcoming the noobs who just dropped into his tavern. Cutting the cutscene short, the Magic Lord yells for everyone to pause what they're doing. Playing the role of director, the elf disciple complains the tavern keeper's acting is too stiff and demands more energy. She immediately tells the guy to start eating 6 meals a day, claiming the tavern owner needs a massive dad bod to look authentic. Moving to the next actor, the writer checks if the blacksmith memorized his dialogue tree and cues him to start acting. The dwarf pretends to break a weapon on purpose with an awkward laugh, and the elf tells him to be way more toxic to tilt the players. Kinda confused, the blacksmith asks if a 99% success rate really needed to fail like that. Walking through the test server, the MC praises the girl's hard work, pretty happy with how hard she's sweating the details. He asks one of his admins about the magic bandwidth, confirming the tower can render up to 10,000 bodies at once for the humans. Checking the server bottleneck, the guy realizes farming enough mana stones is going to be the main issue they have to patch later. Even knowing they need way more troops, he decides not to rush the pacing and focuses on using the beta testers to reclaim the corrupted zones. Looking at the lobby packed with NPCs getting ready for launch, the Lord feels like all this hype is what hope actually looks like. Wanting a flawless launch, he asks about any remaining bugs, and the director says they still haven't cast the main knight. The boss suggests grabbing any high-stat warrior, but the elf instantly vetoes it, demanding an insanely gorgeous guy to carry the lore. Looking at the kingdom's scarred veterans, the CEO concludes these war heroes are nowhere near being pretty boys. Passionate about her own fanfic, the writer claims the prince's good looks are mandatory to make the humans simp for the world and hate the corruption. Realizing his disciples' crazy demands, the Tower Master flashes a sneaky smile, saying he has the perfect cheat code for this. He instantly summons the High Elf, who walks up looking super elegant in her high heels. Whispering his big brain strat, the kid asks her to craft a custom body that he'll pilot himself, making the servant laugh at his shady motives. Totally embarrassed by the call-out, he fake coughs and tells her to focus on modeling the avatar using the project's concept art. Flashing a slightly creepy smile, the girl reveals she already has the Vessel 100 ready and tells the boss to follow her. The squad walks into a massive, super bright and fancy room packed with artificial creations all over the place. Kinda creeped out by the weird decor, the Lord thinks the room is spooky, while the writer is completely amazed by all the dolls. Looking super proud, the creator checks out her masterpieces, waiting for the boss to drop a W. Showing off a cute kid-sized doll with animal ears, she admits she made that version of the master to perfectly fit in her hugs. The elf pinches the doll's soft cheeks, totally obsessed, and the MC instantly kills the vibe, saying he's never equipping that skin. Bummed by the rejection, the girl swears she'd spoil the kid rotten, but he snaps back saying he'd literally suffocate in that death grip. Changing the subject, the admin points to a mannequin covered by a huge red tarp in the middle of the room. She tells the duo to brace themselves to have their minds blown, making the guy super suspicious about all the suspense. Gripping the fabric with serious main character energy, the High Elf announces she finally achieved absolute perfection in her craft. With a quick pull, she rips off the red cape, dropping her ultimate masterpiece for the world to see. The duo gets flashbanged by an insane blinding light coming from the artificial body, forcing them to cover their eyes. The vessel has such unreal drip it literally glows with its own divine aura, flexing the perfect knight build. The game writer is totally stunned, blown away by the skin that exceeded all her wildest hype. While the girl glazes the creation, the admin flexes that she used dragon bones and magic fibers during a whole month of crazy grinding. Touching the gear, the magic lord grumbles that he had to blow a ton of his own gold to pay 12 dwarven blacksmiths for the premium armor. Super surprised, he wonders how the terrifying dragon lord agreed to hand over his own scales without triggering a boss fight. Skipping the patch notes, the CEO sits in his special gaming chair to test if the soul link with the new avatar works properly. A storm of blue lightning crashes in the room the exact second the archmage transfers his essence into the doll. The two girls watch the magic loading screen up close, holding their breath from the anxiety of seeing the final render. Slowly, the gorgeous knight's crystal blue eyes snap open, confirming the login was a total dub. Meanwhile, on Earth, it's just 10 minutes until the global launch of the most hyped game ever. A famous red-haired streamer is showing off the VR gear to thousands of viewers live on stream. Reading chat, she admits she bought the cheapest edition because she was scared of getting scammed by the dead company. Putting the headset on, the streamer thinks the design is super futuristic and loves that the chat window overlays right in her HUD. The system clock finally hits 10 o'clock, unlocking the highly anticipated access for the hyped player base. The main screen flashes login enabled, and the girl tells chat she's finally bypassing the queue. Adjusting the comfy headset, she declares it's time to prove if this is the future of gaming or just a massive cap. Hesitating for a second, the influencer taps the button on the side to boot up the connection. Instantly, an intense blue scanner sweeps her body in the chair, totally jump-scaring the girl with the effect. Her consciousness gets yanked hard into a glowing dimensional tunnel, making the gamer scream in panic. Inside the Magic Tower's massive hall in Arsalan, summoning energy starts exploding all over the crystal room. The head mage sees the portal activity and tells all admins to get into position to greet the first player. Slowly getting her bearings, the girl rubs her eyes, feeling a bit dizzy after the crazy fast travel. Floating barefoot in a dark space filled with stars and constellations, she looks around trying to figure out where she spawned. Shaking with hype, the redhead tells her floating chat she actually made it into perfect VR, making her viewers completely lose their minds. Totally mesmerized by the tech, she starts messing with the holographic character creation menu to build her avatar. The UI shows epic warrior models, showing players can pick between human, elf, dwarf, or orc races. Without a second thought, the streamer picks the elf race for the aesthetics, taking a second to slightly buff her character's assets. The second she hits confirm, her physical avatar drops firmly onto the green grass of the starter zone. Flexing her new skin, the blonde elf does an elegant spin and tells her chat to clip the perfect result. Reading chat going feral over her avatar's crazy proportions, the streamer ignores the trolls and wonders if this gorgeous map is actually Arsalan. Absolutely mind-blown by the graphics, she freaks out with joy, confirming to her viewers that perfect VR is actually real. But the hype dips when she realizes she's totally lost, struggling with her character's physics while trying to find the quest marker. Suddenly, a voice pings her that the starter village event is right over there, and the elf turns around saying thanks without thinking. The second she locks eyes on the mysterious guy, the influencer forgets how to speak and freezes in shock. Dripping with charisma, the blonde knight introduces himself as Leon and offers to party up if she's lost on the map. Nearby, a generic village guard welcomes the heroes and robotically asks the player to input her username. Striking a super cute pose for the stream, the girl uses her classic handle and registers as Hebiel. The system confirms her name with a shiny pop-up, getting the streamer super hyped about finally making her account official. The guard drops a scripted line asking if she's a natural player, and the redhead instantly clocks that he's just a random NPC. Trying to interact, the elf asks if the guy has any quests to hand out, and he drops a generic line praising her hero vibes. Sticking to the script, the soldier points to a massive building in the distance and tells the adventurer to hit up the local guild. Reading chat panicking about where the hot guy went, Hebiel finally remembers the blonde prince existed. Jogging her memory, she realizes the knight vanished the second they hit the village gate, guessing he must be an essential story NPC. Watching the other noobs running around the plaza, the player hopes she'll run into the handsome warrior again if she keeps grinding quests. Watching everything from high up in his archmage form, Jinwoo is super happy with the positive reviews and knows his disciple will love hearing about it. With his eyes glowing blue, the tower leader uses his scanning hack to see if any of the players have high-tier stats. The MC figures that unique skills are tied to soul power, forged by the years these folks grinded on Earth. Looking at the floating UI tags over the avatars running around, he sighs, disappointed that most are just low-rank casuals. But in the middle of the basic crowd, something wild catches the Magic Lord's eye, making him lock in instantly. Scanning Hebiel's profile from afar, he's amazed to see the girl unlocked a high-tier skill right at spawn. The guy quickly guesses that her long career farming views on the internet basically min-maxed her charisma stats. Seeing the massive potential of that diplomacy buff, he hopes she levels up the skill and carries the map clearing. Arriving at her first waypoint, the blonde elf stops right in front of the epic building that serves as the Adventurers Guild. Poking her head through the door, she sneaks a peek inside just to make sure she didn't walk into the wrong instance. As soon as she steps into the insanely detailed and well-lit main hall, the girl gasps, completely stunned by the RTX-level graphics. Just then, a sweet, upbeat voice calls out to the streamer, making her instantly love the wholesome staff vibe. The NPC on reception duty is none other than writer Tia, rocking a cute uniform and serving major wholesome energy at the desk. Totally simping for the NPC's aesthetics, the influencer gets flustered while her chat goes feral demanding the receptionist's attention. The admin explains the perks of joining the guild and offers starter gear, which the redhead instantly accepts with massive hype. The stream chat turns into absolute chaos, with viewers declaring undying love for the NPC and calling her a perfect angel. Speedrunning the intro, Hebiel fills out the sign-up form using a quill, officially locking in her guild membership. Tia hands over the basic starter pack and points to the armory where the noob can pick her first weapon. Being super sweet, the NPC gives the player headpats, making the streamer melt while her audience dies of jealousy. Watching this chill interaction from the top of a statue, Jinwoo keeps monitoring his massive simulation. Pretty satisfied with the metrics, the Magic Lord admits the noob is super cute, which weirdly makes him want to troll her a bit. Imagining his disciple crying later, he realizes the writer has zero clue about the absolute nightmare it is dealing with real gamers. And like a bad omen, a giant barefoot stomps hard on the guild's wooden floor, totally ruining the chill vibe. A buff, bizarre-looking warrior, wearing literally only his underwear, barges into the lobby screaming for noodles and booze. Staring at that cursed avatar with zero shame, the sweet elf loses her voice and completely freezes in pure terror. Soon, a bunch of other veteran players with troll skins and basically no armor raid the building, jumping and screaming, turning the guild into a total circus. The chaos takes over the lobby, and Tia starts screaming in panic while the noobs spam cursed emotes all over the map. Making things worse, the squad figures out you get an exclusive achievement for tilting the receptionist, encouraging maximum toxic behavior. With zero defense against the horde of trolls, the poor writer ends up curled up in a corner crying, totally defeated. Watching his admins suffer from afar, the CEO holds back a laugh, knowing the humans are gonna cry rivers once the real difficulty spikes. Doing a complete 180, Tia drops a terrifying glare and swears she'll tank this childish nonsense if it means watching them suffer later. While the game breaks the internet, real-world headlines won't stop hyping Arsalan's insane success, establishing a whole new meta in the tech market. Experts and influencers who previously trashed the dead company start posting formal apology videos for fumbling the bag. The launch impact is so massive that TV networks globally interrupt broadcasts to debate this historic tech leap. Big CEOs and governments instantly realize that if they don't adapt to this new VR meta, they'll be left in the dust forever. Just 1 week after this explosive drop, Jinwoo walks into the office looking flawless while the staff greets him. One of the devs walks up laughing, asking if the boss saw the dozens of delivery trucks parked outside. Laughing chilly, the CEO comments that a crazy amount of hardware deliveries really did just pull up this morning. The office vibe is pure celebration, with the crew gossiping that people had to turn off their phones to dodge contacts begging for beta keys. Switching to business mode, the veteran announces the second wave of pre-orders is dropping soon, pushing 50,000 new headsets into the wild. Hearing that stat, Jinwoo gets serious, calculating that this army is the perfect size to kick off the raid on the corrupted zones. Hyped for the roadmap, the dev lead suggests pushing the main questline forward and asks if the fan-favorite knight is finally making an appearance. Riding the wave, another dev proudly shows off the merch concepts based on the handsome blonde prince, ready to cash in on the simps. Back in the magic world, the Archmage checks out Leon's artificial body in the mirror, trying to figure out how that skin became such a viral hit. Flexing his confidence, even he has to admit his new physical alt account has some serious drip. Ruining the narcissistic vibe, Tia walks in calling the master conceited, and he snaps back telling the elf to knock first. Ignoring the scolding, the disciple coaches him, saying the prince needs to keep that sad boy look to bait the audience. The guy just grumbles about the whole thing, asking why on earth the writer is forcing this edgy roleplay right now. Staring the lord down with a red aura, the girl obsessively recites the tragic character's backstory, kinda creeping him out. The writer demands he memorize the exact dialogue, telling the knight to never drop that suffering energy if they want the plan to work. Sighing because his admin is sweating way too hard, Jinwoo changes the subject and asks about a high-level zone for the players to grind. Noticing the elf's hesitation, the MC figures he's gonna have to call in a massive favor from an old rival to fix the map issue. Without stalling, the knight walks firmly into a teleport portal charged with heavy dark energy. Crossing the gate, he spawns into a totally wrecked zone, where violent lightning rips through skies stained by destruction. The heavy area's red lighting comes from a massive, creepy moon that seems to be glaring down at the cursed land. Switching back to his max-level aura, the lord lands on the cliff flexing pure energy to push the toxic smoke away. Scanning the ruined biome, the guy grumbles in disgust that this horrible place always gives him major debuffs. Complaining about the trash welcome, the CEO spawns a floating dark weapon and demands the zone's boss come greet him. With a challenging glare, he grips the magic-charged sword, warning he's about to knock real hard to get some attention. With a devastating swing, the Archmage slams the ground, triggering a massive blue fire explosion that nukes the whole area. With the massive AoE blast tearing up the dark map, the Archmage grabs the territory boss's attention. Soon, a giant purple spatial rift tears open in the air, revealing a super creepy presence. A spooky voice echoes out of nowhere, telling the mortal he didn't need to throw such a fit just to announce his login. The Master of Corruption spawns in his full monstrous form, asking if his enemy finally came back to forfeit his soul. Taunting the Magic Lord, the creature reminds him that all the server's old priests and paladins are already mindless mobs under his control. Keeping absolutely chill, Jinwoo agrees that's exactly why he had to solo carry the whole time, admitting he ended up losing that grinding war. The evil entity tells him to just accept the game over, doubting the magic barrier can keep his HP up for much longer. Facing the threat, the MC just looks like he's finding the whole cutscene hilarious. Tilted by the reaction, the monster demands to know what's so funny. The tower leader points straight at the boss's face, explaining he thinks it's pathetic that the Master of Corruption is literally hard stuck in his own spawn zone. The creature rages at the disrespect and asks if the guy fast-traveled all the way there just to troll him. Ignoring the boss's tilt, the Archmage denies it, saying he doesn't have that much free time and starts scanning the map for something. Satisfied, he spots a camp in the distance and confirms he just found exactly what he needed. His target is a spawn point packed with corrupted goblins that just grief the whole region. Laughing evilly, the Master of Corruption warns that trying to wipe out those pests is a waste of time, since they infinitely respawn. Gripping his staff tight, the MC agrees it would be annoying if he had to solo farm the mobs himself. With a smooth move, he taps his weapon on the ground, triggering a massive blue magic circle under his feet. Instantly, giant pillars of lightning crash down, trapping the entire enemy camp inside the AO. Without even breaking a sweat, the Supreme Leader just snaps his fingers to finish the cast. Using spatial magic, he teleports all the goblins out of the zone in the blink of an eye. The glowing power keeps vacuuming the mobs straight out of that cursed server. Completely shook by what he's seeing, the dark entity demands to know what kind of exploit that is. Waving casually, Jinwoo yells that he's just borrowing some mobs for a bit and tells the boss to wait for the respawn. Milking the villain's confusion, the guy congratulates him on being cast as the game's mid-boss and tells him to get ready to put on a good show. The Archmage turns to leave but stops suddenly, remembering a tiny detail. Clenching his fist, he mentions that since he borrowed stuff, it's only fair to drop some loot in return. The Corruption Lord stays quiet, waiting to see what this toxic human is going to do. Turning his head with a troll smile, the MC flips the bird at the creature and tells him to keep the change. The monster completely loses its mind over the disrespect and rages at the tower leader with max fury. While the mage vanishes into a portal, the abomination lets out a massive roar, swearing to wipe him out next time. Far away, peace rules the chill forest of the starter zones. A group of noobs waits at the quest marker, and the buff guy celebrates finally getting a real hunting mission. Checking the UI, his teammate says the targets should spawn any second now. Suddenly, dark purple energy infects the green zone, putting the squad on high alert. Pretty spooked by the sudden weather change, influencer Hebiel asks why the map went dark out of nowhere. A giant deformed foot stomps the forest floor, breaking the silence. Several creepy purple goblins spawn in, surrounding the player squad. The team panics when they see the mobs are way too big, instantly realizing they just pulled elite enemies. With a bloodthirsty look, one of the freaks drops a deafening screech to intimidate the humans. Trying to act tough, the buff warrior pulls his weapon, claiming they're just trash mobs that will go down in 3 hits. But the creature dashes at insane speed straight at the swordsman. The guy's eyes go wide, totally unable to track the enemy's crazy movement speed. With zero chance to block, he takes a brutal hit that sends him flying backwards. The whole team freezes, watching their teammate get one-shotted. Raging hard, the redhead mage curses the monsters and casts a massive fireball. The flame explodes at full force, sending a crazy heatwave across the battlefield. Super confident in his DPS, the caster smirks, asking if the threat was deleted. The smoke clears, showing the creature didn't even take a scratch from the magic attack. Punishing the whiff, the monster slams the kid with a brutal strike, ending the fight instantly. The elf backs up in terror, realizing her whole squad just got wiped in seconds. Cornered by the horde, she gets that these things are way over her current level, and a game over is guaranteed. The dark beasts charge full speed at the player to drop the finisher. Totally desperate, the noob shuts her eyes and screams, waiting for the brutal impact. Then a sharp sound slices the air faster than the eye can track. A golden beam of light crosses the scene perfectly to parry the enemy attack. The holy energy blast knocks the corrupted goblins away and clears the zone instantly. Collapsed on the ground, the girl opens her dizzy eyes and sees a hooded figure standing right in front of her. Knight Leon turns his head, flashing a soft smile, and greets the heroine, saying they ran into each other again. Dripping with surreal charm, the guy asks super politely if she took any damage during the clash. To script this perfect moment, the high elf mixed the rarest and most expensive crafting mats in the game. The prince's artificial body was min-maxed to the last pixel to prove it's a flawless masterpiece. High-tier pure magic flows through the warrior's hands, flexing his insane power level. Paralyzed, the influencer stares at the glowing figure, literally unable to look away from that absolute perfection. The guy's hidden system is running dozens of background scripts, tweaking everything from lighting to scent just to charm the target. Hebiel completely melts for the NPC's insane looks, acting totally goofy in the middle of the forest. Reading chat going wild and dropping massive donos, the streamer shakes her head, telling herself to lock in. Noticing the noob freaking out, the blonde walks up looking worried to check her HP. Stuttering hard, she swears she's fine, but he gently reaches out, saying he'll cast a heal just in case. A warm, cozy light wraps around the girl's body, catching the adventurer completely off guard. Blushing hard, she admits she wasn't hurt, but feels her stamina refill like crazy from the buff. The stream's donations explode on screen, triggering a giant sound alert to celebrate the romantic cutscene. Totally forgetting the danger, the player strikes cute poses and winks to thank her viewers for the cash. Piloting the avatar remotely, Jinwoo is speechless watching this random display of insanity. The Lord stares at the girl with pure confusion and pity, thinking her game crashed or something. Playing the worried role, the knight asks if the hero bumped her head and offers to heal it, making the redhead scream no. The stream's overlay flashes, demanding the girl hit her classic cute dance emote immediately. Seeing the massive cash drop trying to force the quest, the knight watches the whole thing super curious. Jinwoo decides to take advantage of the quiet moment to troll the girl just a bit and see what happens. Hacking the system, he bumps the bounty to 5 million, leaving the influencer absolutely shook. Driven by that insane payout, the elf raises her shaking hands to start the cringe dance. Swallowing her pride, she starts hopping like a bunny, dedicating that bizarre emote directly to the guy. Keeping up the cute act, the adventurer happily announces the bunny made a surprise cameo just for him. But the cringe hits too hard, and she covers her face, turning her back, totally defeated by the power of money. Completely ignoring the awkward scene, Leon suggests they find a safe zone and prescribes a head treatment for her. The weird interaction makes the stream hit record numbers, crowning it the clip of the year in chat. Shortly after, the two are walking side by side through the chill forest, with the redhead simping over every detail of the warrior. Just his silent, elegant walk is more than enough to have the noob completely hooked. Stopping suddenly, the blonde turns his face under the soft lighting and tells her to watch her step. The streamer's heart rate spikes instantly, and she thanks him, acting all goofy about him caring. Getting serious again, the prince guarantees the corrupted mobs can't track them this far. Keeping it polite, the knight officially introduces himself as a traveler, getting thanked by the noob for the hard carry. With a distant look, he mentions he travels the world investigating the corruption nuking the lands of Arsalan. The girl quickly puts two and two together, realizing that bad energy is why the mobs turn that weird purple color. Without saying a word, the archmage analyzes the situation closely through his avatar's glowing eyes. Checking the player's insane social stats, the CEO realizes she's going to be the VIP of the raid. Reaching out dramatically, the prince begs the brave hero to help defeat the dark threat. A massive main quest notification pops up in front of her, promising a huge affinity boost with the NPC as a reward. Super hyped about the relationship points, the adventurer realizes she's gonna have to assemble a massive raid party. Looking around the green fields, she notices the other players are busy farming mats and exploring. Clenching her fist with pure determination, the elf ignores the grind, swearing she'll clear the quest for her beloved lord. Blinded by the simp energy, she steps up and grabs the knight's hands super tight. Blushing like crazy, the girl screams at the top of her lungs that she'll risk a game over to finish the task. Happy he successfully pawned off the quest, the blonde says a quick goodbye, promising to provide overwatch from the map. Playing his part, the prince starts actively carrying noobs during the hardest hunts in the forest. He also helps the farmers track down rare herbs, leaving everyone amazed by his high charisma and efficiency. Handing over a bag packed with premium potions, the warrior offers the loot as a simple thank you to the party. The adventurers are shocked by his insane generosity, warning he's gonna run out of items playing like that. Flashing a gentle smile, the prince calms the crew down, claiming they are the true hope of the world. In no time, gaming forums get flooded with emotional posts about the mysterious knight's wholesome deeds. Inspired by the NPC's bravery, one player posts that he finally got the courage to touch grass after years of being a shut-in. He says he hugged his mom crying, feeling awful for making her suffer so much while he was isolated. Determined to level up IRL, the guy promises to get a job and Sherpa new players in-game with the same positive vibes as the blonde. In the real world, Jinwoo reads the subreddits, happy to see his motivational strat is pulling massive numbers. Walking down the office stairs like a boss, he calculates the raid party will group up fast and decides to push the pacing. Back in Arsalan, the Archmage's imposing figure walks down the Magic Tower's long staircase to trigger the next phase. The Lord keeps a cold, locked-in expression, making sure the elite invaders give the humans a serious run for their money. With a simple tap of magic, the heavy hall doors swing open, revealing the command center. The room flexes vibrant energy, with multiple arcane rings spinning and humming non-stop in the middle of the space. Waiting patiently, the high elf greets her master with a respectful bow and confirms all systems are green. The main magic HUD floats in the air, and the MC checks the flawless connection the tower set up to work as a remote control. Feeling the mana flow in the rig, the master reports he can track the enemy core's power from super far away. Wrapping up his thought, he figures forcing constant mob spawns will speed up the LFG process for the raid. Without wasting time, the Magic Lord orders the admin to summon the top officers of the territory ASAP. A highly toxic smile starts forming on the young guy's face over the genius of his foolproof plan. Flexing his villain era, he announces it's finally time for his own minions to play the monsters. Answering the ping, the skeleton baron and the other spooky servants crowd around, super proud to follow the divine orders. Annoyed that his minions have zero personal space, the CEO steps back and tells everyone to chill and sit properly. Trying to focus, he asks if anyone briefed the squad on the mission, but notices the writer suddenly pulling up. In a state of pure rage and total hysteria, the girl barges into the hall screaming her lungs out with her eyes wide open. Spooked by the bizarre meltdown, the Archmage curses the employee for almost giving him a heart attack with the random screaming. Slumped in the castle chair, the elf looks like her HP hit zero, making the boss ask what the heck just happened. The receptionist's face shows heavy debuffs from extreme mental fatigue after pulling a crazy shift at the guild. Crying out of frustration, she rants that the adventurers spend all day trolling just to farm useless titles. Sobbing, she reports that the crazies start taking fall damage right in front of her just to troll, while the Lord tries to chill her out. Laughing nervously, Jinwoo begs her to stop wasting premium mana stones on this nonsense, and tells her to take a deep breath. Moving to the next in line, the CEO stares down the two veteran priests, asking how their day one went. Super offended, the bearded old man complains the players won't stop treating him like he's super sus for literally no reason. He remembers being super bummed that the crowd kept whispering in corners, spreading rumors that he's the final boss of the zone. Whining sadly, his coworker reports he took the same L, getting called the leader of a cursed cult. A heavy depressed vibe takes over the tower hall, with the servants sighing from exhaustion after tanking the humans' toxicity. Asked why she kept the plan a secret, the high elf laughs, saying she just wanted to see the chat's reaction, getting called a weirdo. To end the suffering, the Archmage pulls a modern game controller from his robes and hands it to the squad. Having zero clue about tech, the receptionist stares at the weird device, finally figuring out it controls the goblins. Tilted, she cries, refusing to play as a gross mob, but the Lord insists they need to grief the players, so the raid party forms up. Flashing a ruthless look, Jinwoo decrees that since humans can respawn, the servants shouldn't hold back in PvP. Embracing the toxicity instantly, the old skeleton laughs, promising to wipe the noobs, making the boss a bit worried about the violence level. Ignoring the minions' rage, the guy focuses on teaching the writer how to use the weird buttons on the controller. Very calmly, he points out the basic movement inputs, promising the magic aim assist will do the heavy lifting to make it easy. Booting up a floating HUD, the leader loads the simulation screen and hands over the controls for the girl to test the beta. Sweating from the pressure of the carry, the elf grips the joystick tight and asks if her gaming posture is correct to start. Messing with the controller, the elf manages to make the little dark goblin sprint across the map. Amazed by the tech, she praises the engine, and the boss hypes her up to aggressively emote on the enemy team. On the other side, the two veteran priests confess they've always wanted to troll some idiots like this. Joining the hype, the skeleton baron flexes his high IQ strats, while the Lord tells everyone to test it live. The old minion makes the creature spam backflips, celebrating his new favorite minigame. Looking at the ugly monster on screen, Jinwoo notes the players also think the mob's design is absolute trash. Super focused on the roadmap, he uses his magic overlay to read the analytics popping up on the system. The whole admin team cracks up, having a blast with the game, making for a perfect screenshot moment. On the modern smartphone, the pic saves, capturing the tower staff just vibing. Back in the real world, the MC looks at the photo on his phone, finding the whole setup hilarious. He figures that clearing these starter mobs will officially trigger episode 1 of the main questline. Chilling at his family's fancy dining table, the guy keeps checking his notifications. But soon the rich kid drops his fork when he spots a massive system update. Moving super fast, he jumps out of his chair, jump-scaring his grandpa and the rest of the family at the table. The patriarch notices the kid's tension and tries to figure out why he just spiked in anxiety. Worried about his grandson, the old man gets up fast, making the dinner vibe super tense. The kid stares at the floating HUD, completely baffled by the logs he just got. Back in Arsalan, a bunch of players are screaming in the plaza, LFG, to build a raid party. The whole village is tilted, with furious warriors swearing to hunt down the mobs that looted their gear. Piloting his archmage body, the tower leader spawns in, amazed at how massive the crowd is. He's totally confused about how the server got this packed so fast. Out on the battlefield, a dark goblin pushes aggressively, spinning its wooden club. The noob swordsman blocks the hit with his shield and begs for immediate healer support. A massive fire explosion hits the target, leaving the humans shook by the insane difficulty scaling. But the creature dodges the flames with cracked movement mechanics, totally dodging the squad's attack. Controlling the monster with the gamepad, Tia lets out an evil laugh, trolling the enemy's panic. The writer and the priests high-five, celebrating the perfect combo they just pulled off. Thirsty for more chaos, the elf locks her eyes on the screen, totally focused on extending her kill streak. Meanwhile, the adventure squad collapses on the ground, completely out of stamina and unable to keep going. Watching the wipe from afar, Jinwoo realizes his admins are just griefing the humans for fun. Facepalming, the CEO sighs at his staff's toxic gamer behavior. He taps the girl's shoulder, letting her know the stats for the mob she's playing just got patched. The HUD shows the creature hit level 10 and unlocked an exclusive title for spawn camping the adventurers. Flexing an intimidating aura, the abomination rocks a red headband after wiping a mountain of noobs. Seeing the massacre, the Archmage decides to step in, but the elf claims it's finally time to drop the finisher. In-game, the monster's ugly bare foot intentionally steps right next to a downed warrior's face. The creature starts aggressively teabagging at max speed to completely humiliate the defeated player. This toxic emote over the body is just designed to make the victim rage quit. Watching the cursed scene, the other noobs scream, outraged by the virtual minion's disrespect. Completely corrupted by online gaming culture, the writer laughs hysterically, trolling her victims. The Tower Master is stunned by the admin's toxicity, wondering where she learned to BM so hard. Even though it's crazy, he admits the humiliation strat worked perfectly to tilt the humans and make them want payback. The plan is a massive W, and soon a giant army of adventurers starts marching out of the village in formation. Thanks to the Magic Squad's childish trolling, the raid party was formed way faster than projected. Logging into the Prince Leon skin, the MC flashes a confident smile, declaring the real raid is starting. The handsome knight walks through the zone, pulling aggro from everyone with his epic presence. With a charming look, he rallies the team to kick off the massive forest expedition. Nearby, a tanky player named Urugum looks super stressed, sweating bullets. The guy begs the blacksmith to upgrade his gear before the boss fight, showing major anxiety. Super confident in his crafting stats, the NPC dwarf raises his massive forge hammer to run the upgrade. The heavy strike hits the metal shield, sending shiny sparks all over the workshop. A golden magic circle pops up, showing the RNG upgrade system is active. Suddenly, the spell fails miserably and causes a mini explosion on the player's item. Playing innocent, the blacksmith apologizes for the bug, while the screen confirms the shield leveled down. The big guy goes into total despair, crying over losing all his grinding progress. The redhead player walks up to the shop, and her teammate instantly begs for emotional support after the massive L. The girl scolds him, saying he's totally addicted to the adrenaline of high-risk gacha pulls. Trying to justify it, the warrior claims the drop rates are garbage, so he has to keep rolling. Laughing sarcastically, the NPC roasts the guy, questioning his bravery as a hero. Baited by the trash talk, the adventurer puts his shield back on the anvil, going all in, while the elf panics. The knight's metal footsteps echo down the street, grabbing the influencer's attention at the shop. Radiating good vibes, the blonde prince greets the adventurer super casually. The girl immediately asks what he's doing there, and the warrior says he came to check the raid's loadouts. His gentle smile gives off absolute pure vibes, melting the redhead's heart yet again. Jump-scared by the glowing figure, the tanky player notices the VIP NPC is right there. With zero dignity, the warrior grabs the blonde's cape and begs desperately for RNG blessing. The elf grumbles that her teammate completely lost it and is a hostage to the system's casino. Wanting to be a team player, the prince agrees, and the guy positions him next to the anvil like a lucky charm. Super confident in his bizarre new strat, the adventurer tells the blacksmith to run it back. The MC just stands there quietly, watching the madness without really getting his role in it. Putting all his stats into the swing, the worker yells and brings down the heavy hammer. The tool smashes the shield with an epic impact that shakes the whole room. An intense pillar of golden light blasts from the anvil, lighting up everyone's faces. The system window pops up gloriously, confirming the upgrade hit max level 5. The player throws his hands up, screaming in joy and crying because he just rolled the most op gear on the server. Urugum thanks him intensely, hugging his teammate and swearing all that crazy RNG luck was because of Leon, but the knight humbly replies he didn't do anything. Milking his moment of glory, the big guy trolls Hebiel by rubbing his level 5 shield in her face, making the elf completely tilted. Just then, the stream's donation system triggers a bounty with a massive payout, demanding the influencer also max upgrade a piece of gear. Totally selling out for the bag, the girl grabs the prince's cape begging him to touch her bow, and the guy agrees, wishing her good RNG. With the buff secured, the adventurer tells Thompson to do his thing, and the dwarf blacksmith slams the hammer full force on the glowing anvil. A golden flash confirms the bow's perfect upgrade, making the redhead scream with hype while her chat loses it over the knight's miracle. Full of joy, the girl cries happy tears and straight up confesses her love for the blonde prince, making the NPC a bit awkward about the extreme simping. Seeing the double W, a massive crowd of players rushes in, surrounding the warrior on all sides, begging him to bless their weapons too. With infinite patience, Leon assures them he doesn't mind helping out, pulling sighs of admiration from a warrior watching from a distance. Despite flexing that gentle smile on the outside, Jinwoo's actual consciousness is internally screaming for help, totally drained from dealing with the loud mob. Wasting no time, the blacksmith keeps hammering gear non-stop, triggering an insane streak of successful upgrades for the server. After so much back-to-back grinding, the poor dwarf NPC is completely out of stamina, sitting on the floor looking like a literal ash statue. Checking the logs, the archmage realizes the drop rate had nothing to do with him, but rather the workers' broken stats, while the whole village parties. Suddenly, a bard aggressively strumming a lute walks up to the elf, and the tank to say GG's on their epic rolls. Acting like a self-proclaimed romantic rock star, the noob offers a custom track written just to celebrate the duo's massive W at the fort. Without waiting for a yes, the bard starts belting out a screechy song about the hammer's light, making the prince cover his ears from the audio assault. Trolling the garbage vocals, one of the adventurers jokes that the horrible noise is perfect for keeping the toxic goblins away from the squad. The influencer complains hard, grumbling that her race's hearing is way too sensitive, making Leon realize why he thought that guy was so weird. Watching the musician try-harding on the lute, the archmage realizes the soul color of that specific player looks insanely familiar. An IRL memory flashes in the MC's head, instantly confirming that the weird player is actually his own unemployed secretary. Reading his employee's bio about wanting to be a virtual pop star, the boss lets out a heavy sigh, dying of cringe over the guy's life choices. Worried about the blonde warrior going quiet, Hebiel asks if something's wrong, but he quickly covers it up, swearing it's nothing. Switching topics, the prince says he's taking the lead and tells the party to follow, but stops when he spots two high-tier warriors in town. The armored redhead girl flexes a confident stance, while the bearded warrior in dark clothes agrees they need to control the zone. The older player flexes his guild master tag with a scary smirk, promising to completely wipe anyone who gets in his way. Instantly clapping back, the rival guild leader looks furious, challenging the guy to a 1v1 right there in the street. Stopping the PvP before it gets toxic, the prince asks the top-tier heroes to chill, reminding everyone they're about to raid the goblins. Locking eyes on the angry duo up close, Jinwoo gets a massive jump scare, realizing those two intense souls are also super familiar. The image of his proud grandpa and his older sister flashes in his mind, confirming his own family is logged in and sweating hard on the server. Sweating bullets from the leak, the guy realizes the dark tracker is his grandpa's alt, and the savage warrior is his rich sister. The lord remembers his sister used to be super elegant IRL, always treating him nice and feeding him premium meals. Comparing that memory to the feral warrior screaming for sweaty duel, the guy is completely baffled by how she unlocked such a chaotic personality. Analyzing the weird setup, he notices his relatives already adapted perfectly to the meta, creating and shot-calling their own op guilds. Since running a guild takes non-stop grinding, the MC starts seriously stressing about the future of his family's IRL company. Cutting off the young boss's panic, dozens of new players start flooding the main plaza, chanting the knight's name with crazy hype. A massive crowd forms around the hero, screaming that they all pulled up for his LFG post to permanently delete the dark threat on the map. A weird girl holding a knife thanks him for the attention, and the blonde politely replies that her DPS will be key for the raid's success. Several players with troll skins and absolute joke usernames keep dropping into the plaza, forming an actual strike force for the raid. Despite the meme names, the squad has heavily geared warriors and mages, proving they didn't queue up just to mess around. Slipping back into his noble, dramatic prince persona, Leon formally declares it's an unmatched honor to party up with such fearless heroes. The humans go wild over the Lord's hype speech and raise their weapons, accepting the hero into the raid with a massive, synchronized battle. Proud of his flawless crowd control, the knight flashes a confident smirk and drops the official command for the massive raid to move out. Under the sunlight, the giant army of adventurers pushes through the starter village gates with heavy steps, convinced they're getting the W. Leading the vanguard, the MC's sister raises her sword, ordering her guild's knights to stay 100 locked in on the objective. On the other flank, the proud grandpa hoists his axe, telling his trackers to honor the epic boss fight about to go down. Taking the spot as the true raid leader, the blonde prince's metal boot hits the ground, setting the pace for the relentless push. The massive squad of hundreds of brave heroes marches with purpose through the green biome, blindly following the glowing knight's blue cape. The render starts shifting slowly into a much rockier, closed-off map, signaling the huge army is moving way past the safe zones. Amazed by the epic skybox, the big guy is blown away by the game's insane graphics, hyping up how crazy the view is. Vibing with the epic journey, a party member pulls a bottle from his inventory, offering craft wine to celebrate the immersion. The noob bard starts aggressively taking notes, claiming the rustic aesthetic is the perfect vibe to write heavy metal, while his buddy tells him to chill. The MC watches the squad's chaotic energy calmly, figuring this chill vibe is mandatory, since forcing them to play sweaty would be a disaster. He hopes the next wave of humans joining the server keep leveling up naturally, but his thoughts get interrupted by a ping. Through the hidden comms, the elf admin happily reports she had to massively buff the zone's difficulty to match the giant army he rallied. She confirms all the magic admins are logged in at the secret base with their controllers, totally ready to pilot the enemy horde. Happy with his staff's flawless setup, the tower leader praises the grind and warns the PvP clash is starting any second. Instantly, the forest weather shifts, dropping a spooky blue filter, confirming the scripted event sequence just went live. A thick, creepy fog starts rendering over the dirt path, grabbing the attention of the players who don't get the sudden weather patch. The squad complains about the sudden vision nerf, and the veterans excitedly guess the devs went all out on the VFX for this raid. Going full method actor, Leon stops dead and fakes being shook, announcing the feared magic barrier is taking corruption damage. A creepy dark hand glitches through the low fog, while the blonde knight pings the group that a massively OP entity just spawned in the zone. Using his shot-caller voice, the prince orders the whole army to fall back immediately to avoid feeding kills in the first unknown wave. Not hesitating against the scripted boss, the warrior quick-draws his heavy sword with an insanely fast animation cancel. He parries the shadow's violent push, tanking for the noobs, screaming for everyone to dodge the unlimited AoE damage. A bunch of gross tentacles burst from the ground at crazy speed, grabbing and yeeting several players into the air in total chaos. The MC's grandpa and his guildmates go into full panic mode, completely shook by the game's sudden aggressive aggro. Stunned in the mess, the redhead elf's eyes go wide as a massive wave of shadows locks onto her for the finisher. The corrupted energy crashes down like a literal destructive avalanche, ready to wipe the squishy targets trapped in the dark forest. Suddenly, a colossal pillar of golden light blasts from the center of the squad, parrying the dark attack with insane knockback and saving the noobs. Wielding his glowing blade, the brave Leon channels a crazy amount of holy magic to cast a protection buff on all the humans in the zone. The divine shockwave wipes the map with blazing fury, deleting the evil mobs and clearing the darkness in a flash. Panting hard, the Lord asks if the party's okay and the player thanks him for the carry, but a panic ping ruins the safe vibe. Sweating bullets, the MC's sister points up absolutely terrified, warning that something is super bugged in the map's skybox. Tearing through the heavy clouds, a massive creepy sphere starts rendering above, draining the zone's energy in a terrifying visual effect. The player army freezes as they witness a literal black sun spawn, dropping a massive debuff of pure terror and tension over the battlefield. The heavy bass of war drums echoes across the spooky map. Several corrupted mobs spawn on top of the ruins, dropping massive roars to try and tilt the heroes. Under that creepy eclipse, the enemy army pushes aggressively toward the human squad. Freaking out, Hebiel checks the player count and pings her team that they are totally outscaled. Staying locked in, Leon reads the map and figures out it's a perfectly scripted game. The prince explains the mobs needed the exact server time and raid size to set up a trap this big, hinting there's a mole in the village. Just then, a literal storm of dark energy nukes the battlefield. Piloting the enemy boss, Tia drops a massive AoE attack with zero counterplay for the noobs. The adventure squad goes into absolute panic seeing the insane DPS of the horde. Gripping a magic stone, the MC takes the blame for pulling the players into a high-level zone way too early. Deciding to fix the throw, the Lord raises his glowing arm and announces he's triggering a mass recall back to the safe zone. Instantly, blue teleport circles pop up under the confused players' feet. The UI drops a dramatic pop-up saying the knight is burning his own stats to save them, leaving the humans shook. Seeing the cast bar filling up, the redhead elf screams, asking what happens to the hero if he stays behind. But the guy just looks back silently, flexing an edgy look of someone who already accepted his bad ending. The streamer's eyes go wide, realizing the massive sacrifice her favorite NPC is about to make. Canceling the buff, Hebiel interrupts the spell screaming, swearing she's gonna camp the zone and fight with him till the game over. Hyped by the girl's main character energy, the MC's sister raises her axe, announcing her guild doesn't know how to retreat. The grandpa joins the hype, ordering the raid to start, already calling dibs on monster stew for dinner. Maxing out the epic vibes, the bard starts shredding on his lute, promising to drop the ultimate boss music for the fight. The prince warns the party that this raid boss is way above their current gear score. Flexing max confidence, the adventurer claims with zero hesitation that everyone is locked in for the grind. Grateful for the human's hype, the warrior grips his sword, promising to spam his skills until his mana runs out. Pointing his holy blade at the sky, he pops an AoE golden buff that applies to the whole allied army. The players watch their stats skyrocket instantly, mind blown by the broken scaling of that magic support. Taking the front line, Leon aims his weapon straight at the enemy mob. Dropping a battle cry for Arsalan, the Lord orders his troops to full send it into the corruption forces. The sweaty PvP kicks off the second the two armies clash in the middle of the dark map. In the Magic Tower, the old skeleton comments their whole setup would have been a massive L if the humans actually logged out. But the priest running the servers reveals the teleport was fake anyway, since he disabled fast travel just to force the cutscene. The disciple admits she would have rage quit on the heroes if they ran, but admits the boss had the perfect read on them. Watching the aggressive push on her monitor, she realizes these outsiders are actually sweating to carry their world. Moved by the noob's hype, the writer decides she needs to try hard in her roleplay too. Button mashing her controller aggressively, the elf orders the admin team to push hard to force the humans to level up. Leading the charge, the big tank player orders the shield squad to push up and hold the line. Urogum pops a dash skill, using his max gear stats to steamroll the mobs in his path. Laughing at his own DPS, the guy flexes, claiming this is the carry potential of his max-level shield. Copying his strat, the rest of the frontline pops their defensive cooldowns to tank the horde. The corrupted mobs start spamming heavy attacks against the metal wall set up by the players. Feeling his HP drop, the big guy screams for everyone to hold the formation no matter what. Catching a missed input, the enemy general charges a heavy strike. The creature lands a brutal hammer smash right on the vanguard leader's shield, knocking him back with the impact. Wasting 0 frames, Hebiel uses her teammates back to double jump super high. The warrior looks up, shocked by his teammates' cracked movement tech. Hovering in the air, the archer draws her bowstring to the max, locking onto the shadow leader. With a hype scream, the girl snipes a massive glowing projectile straight at the enemy backline. The arrow hits the map, triggering an insane AoE blast that wipes the front lines. A bunch of dark minions get yeeted by the knockback of the perfect headshot. Pushing the advantage, Leon spams a horizontal slash, dropping a massive wave of holy light. The holy magic clears the zone, deleting dozens of freaks in a single hit. Striking an epic pose with his glowing sword, the prince re-ups his vow to tank for everyone. Totally hyped by the carry, the MC's sister calls her Valhalla guildies to full send the attack. The whole guild charges in screaming like maniacs to wipe whatever's left of that mob wave. Gripping her heavy two-handed axe, the woman jumps in ready to farm kills. With a brutal animation, she breaks the enemy's guard, flexing crazy physical stats. A desperate minion tries to counter, flanking the warrior from the side. But the guild leader dodges flawlessly and smashes the mob's face with a heavy bash to cancel the threat. High on battle adrenaline, she keeps spinning her weapon, deleting anything that spawns in front of her. Flashing a feral smirk, the player locks onto the next mob with 0 fear. With a heavy-hitting combo, she silences the monster using the axe handle with 0 chill. Far away, the Archmage's grandpa slices up a minion, flexing his avatar's max agility. The old man and the MC's sister go back-to-back, hyping up their guild's sweaty PvP performance. Noticing the frontline needs backup, a backline player pings the ranged DPS unit to get ready. The squad queues up their spells and arrows, waiting for the call to drop the synced AoE nuke. Reading chat trolling her bad aim, the influencer tilts and tells her viewers to shut up. The mages spam fireballs and wind blades, dropping a literal bullet hell of glowing projectiles. The magic storm hits the enemy zone, wiping a huge chunk of the dark forces trying to push. Despite the W, the casters realize their mana is draining way too fast because the mobs just keep respawning. Seeing the squad's bars dropping, the bard admin figures he needs to pop his ult while the fight is peaking. Shredding his instrument with max drip, the musician channels his buffs, promising to drop a legendary battle track. The weird beat echoes across the map, pulling aggro from the nearest players. Blue and red aura waves pulse from the loot, boosting the HP and MP region of everyone in range. Feeling the buff, the warriors soak up the support stats while the pop star milks his moment of clout. Totally refreshed by the track, the allied army drops a new combo attack that pushes the corrupted horde back. Drawing her bow again, Hebiel stays hyper-focused, noticing that even slowly, the squad is actually clearing the raid. Urogum raises his shield, fully confident they can clear the raid no matter how many mobs spawn. A sudden, violent impact tears through the air, crashing into the ground right in front of the squad with devastating out. Urogum and his buddy backdash in a panic, trying to figure out what just dropped from the skybox. The enemy boss stands up from the crater holding a heavy weapon, glaring at the humans with max aggro. With a brutal animation, the creature slams the ground, dropping an insane dark shockwave. The energy blast wipes the map, yeeting several players and even its own minions out of bounds. Sinister energy starts glitching through a down mob's body. The players panic as they realize the deleted minions are literally respawning. Cornered, the Vanguard leader asks how they're supposed to beat this broken mechanic, while the server's survivor count plummets. The horde pushes with zero chill, shrinking the allied forces' numbers even more. Right then, the blonde knight dashes in, announcing he's taking the boss's aggro. The Dark General drops a furious roar, accepting the prince's 1v1 request. The two clash violently in a pure stat check brawl. Punishing a whiff, Leon lands a heavy glowing slash that knocks the creature back. Failing the block, the monster gets completely folded and drops to the ground in two pieces. The adventure squad cheers in relief over the Lord's epic W against the boss. But a beam of dark energy snipes across the map out of nowhere. The spell hits the remains of the deleted boss dead on. The monster starts glowing with intense purple light, respawning right in front of the stunned party. The abomination flexes a terrifying new form, having fully regened its HP bar from the last hit. The minion drops a screech, confirming the nightmare phase isn't over yet. Leon and Hebiel are completely shook, trying to figure out how that exploit even works. The guy points at the dark pillar in the distance, explaining the structure is infinitely reviving the corrupted mobs. The influencer asks for the strat, and the warrior plans to push through, claiming the core has a weak spot right in the center. Super locked in, the player promises the hero squad will ignore the mobs and hard focus the objective. The Lord gives a super wholesome reaction to the adventurer's unbreakable hype. Satisfied, he praises the call and rallies the whole raid to full send it at the threat together. The horde of freaks charges with max aggro to block the humans' push. Charging up a heavy spell, the prince channels glowing holy energy into his blade. Leon fires a massive beam of light that deletes the enemies in his path instantly. The op attack clears a direct, safe lane right through the dark mob straight to the corrupted pillar. Taking the opening, the elf and the other ranged DPS sprint full speed down the cleared lane. A raging abomination jump scares the girl, cutting off her sprint. With crazy reaction time, the hero parries the brutal dive and tanks the hit for the player. Holding the block, the prince looks like his stamina bar is tanking from the heavy PvP pressure. Digging deep, he shoves the creature away and resets his defensive stance. Panting hard, the Lord drops to his knees, making Hebiel scream his name in a panic. Keeping his eyes on the prize, the warrior tells the noob to keep rushing without looking back. Urugum and the tanks form a meat shield, telling her to push the objective no matter what. Out of MP, the backline mages decide to intentionally feed, blowing themselves up to take down as many mobs as possible. A chain of magic explosions wipes the zone in a final heroic carry by the Drain squad. Super emotional, the influencer pops her sprint, rushing toward the final quest marker. Getting close to the structure, she panics seeing a massive wave of mobs still blocking the point. The Archmage's grandpa and sister dash past the girl, telling her to rush the finish line. Getting the perfect peel, the adventurer dumps all her green mana into her heavy bow. Hebiel snipes an epic glowing projectile that drills a wind tunnel through the sea of enemies. The fast energy crosses the battlefield, lighting up the map straight toward the giant red target. Confident the hit will land, the player prays the duo secures the final kill for the team. Instantly, the tilted horde swarms in, boxing the girl in from all sides. Unable to block, the elf gets downed, leaving only the two guild leaders alive in the zone. The grandpa yells at his partner to keep pushing, swearing he won't let the hero's massive feed be for nothing. The warrior nods and double jumps through the corrupted air with max agility. The two relatives push together, flexing flawless syncing to drop the finisher. Wombo comboing, they smash the red structure with a heavy dual strike from their weapons. The magic gem can't tank the damage and starts cracking everywhere. The core shatters into thousands of pixels, while the patriarch celebrates the squad's epic W. But a creepy skeleton hand clips out of the dark rift, warning that the boss fight isn't over yet. The two players freeze in place, totally stunned by the new boss spawn. Taking the form of a supreme evil boss, the old skeleton announces he's the new raid boss for these foolish humans.